Hi, today we will see bonds of body. We'll see the names of the bonds, skull bonds in little detail, vertebral column. So let's start with skull bonds. The bonds of the skull can be arranged into two groups, cranial bonds and the facial bonds. Cranial bonds are 8 in number, facial bonds are 14 in number. Now these bonds can be paired or unpaired. The bonds of the cranium are frontal bond, seen on the frontal aspect, parietal bond, seen on the side, articulating with the frontal bone, sphenoid bone, seen on the side of the head. Major part of the sphenoid bone is present inside. Ethmoid bone is forming the medial wall of the orbit. It also forms major part of the nose as it forms the nasal septum, articulating with lacrimal bone in front. Temporal bone is a bone seen on the temporal region, is articulating with the sphenoid in front. Occipital bone is seen on the occipital region. Coming to the facial bones, nasal bones forming the bridge of the nose, articulating with the frontal bone above. Lacrimal bone seen on the medial wall of the orbit, articulating with the maxilla in front. Palatine bone, a small part of the palatine bone can be seen on the medial wall of the orbit. Major part is seen in the hard palate, where it forms the hard palate along with the maxilla. Zygomatic bone is forming the prominence of the cheek, articulating with the maxilla in front. Inferior nasal conga is seen on the lateral wall of the nose, articulating with the maxilla. Vomer bone is a bone which is seen in the median plane, articulating with the perpendicular plate of ethmoid bone and forming the nasal septum. Maxilla is the upper jaw, articulating with the zygomatic bone on the lateral aspect. Mandible is the lower jaw. It forms a joint with the temporal bone forming temporomandibular joint, and this is the only movable joint in the skull. Rest of the joints are immovable. Now, the frontal bone is an unpaired structure. Parietal bone is a paired structure, paired. Sphenoid bone unpaired, which is seen in the median plane. Ethmoid bone unpaired. Temporal bone paired bone. Occipital bone unpaired. Nasal bones are paired. Lacrimal bone paired. Palatine bone paired. Zygomatic bone are paired. Inferior nasal concha paired bones. Vomer singular. Maxilla is a paired bone. Mandible single. Another diagram showing the cranial bones, 8 cranial bones: frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital, ethmoid, sphenoid. Again, there is a diagram of the bones: mandible, zygomatic maxilla, lacrimal, ethmoid, nasal bones, frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital. Another view of the bones: frontal, parietal, sphenoid, temporal, zygomatic, maxilla, mandible, and in the orbit, parts of some bones like the maxilla can be seen, sphenoid bone, frontal bone, lacrimal bone, and near the nose, the nasal bones. Maxilla also can be seen. This is an inferior view where again some bones can be seen: maxilla, forming the upper jaw. Palatine bone. Palatine bone and the maxilla forms hard palate. Zygomatic bone. Frontal bone. Sphenoid bone is having some processes. Temporal bone having again many processes. Parietal bone, occipital bone. It's an inferior view where again articulations between the bones can be seen. Vomer can be seen clearly here, forming the nasal, forming a part of nasal septum, which is dividing the nasal aperture into two cavities. Almost the same figure. Occipital bone seen posteriorly, joining with parietal bone joining with temporal, frontal bone anteriorly placed, joining with parietal bones posteriorly, sphenoid bone, a part of the sphenoid bone called greater wing of the sphenoid bone, seen on the lateral aspect, articulating with nearby bones. Nasal bones articulating with maxilla, lacrimal bone seen in the medial wall of the orbit, ethmoid bone articulating with the lacrimal bone anteriorly, mandible, and the zygomatic bone forming the prominence of the cheek, forming zygomatic arch along with the temporal bone. This is a sagittal section of the skull where the interior of the skull can be seen and the bones here, nasal bones, frontal bone, a sinus in the frontal bone, parietal bones. There are impressions of some structures. These are the impressions of middle meningeal vessels. Occipital bone posteriorly seen, anteriorly articulating with the parietal bone. Temporal bone articulating with the parietal bone. And sphenoid bone, which is in the midline. Sinus which is present inside the sphenoid bone. These are air sinuses. Occipital bone. In the anterior region, nasal bone articulating with the frontal bone. Ethmoid bone forming the parts of nose. Nasal septum formed by perpendicular plate of ethmoid bone and also the vomer. Behind the vomer, there is palatine bone. These are processes which are arising from the sphenoid bone called as pterygoid processes. Hard palate formed by the maxilla and the palatine bone. Maxilla forms the upper jaw. Inferior nasal concha seen on the lateral wall of the nose. Ethmoid bone also give rise to superior and middle nasal conchas. Inferior nasal concha are separate bones. There are multiple foramina can be noted. Inferior view showing the bones, once again the maxilla, palatine bone forming the hard palate, maxilla is extending to other parts, zygomatic bone joining with the maxilla, anteriorly, posteriorly with temporal bone forming zygomatic arch, sphenoid bone, processes of sphenoid bone, medial and lateral pterygoid processes, vomer in the midline. There are multiple foramina, temporal bone articulating posteriorly with occipital bone and also with parietal bone. There are different foramina like foramen magnum, which is seen in the occipital bone, jugular foramen between the occipital bone and the temporal bone, carotid canal can be seen in the temporal bone. This process is mastoid process of temporal bone, styloid process of temporal bone. Between mastoid and the styloid process, there is foramen, stylomastoid foramen, mandibular fossa of the temporal bone articulating with head of mandible to form temporomandibular joint. There are other foramens in the sphenoid bone. This part of the sphenoid bone is called greater wing of sphenoid bone. This area has some foramens like foramen ovale. So we will discuss the remaining foramina as we go through. So these are parts of ear, outer ear, middle ear, and the inner ear. In the middle ear, there are some bones from lateral to medial, malleus, incus, and stapes. So these are also included in the bones of skull, and these bones are present on temporal bone. So temporal bone is an area where the ear is present. Ear is located in the temporal bone. Inner ear, labyrinth, bony labyrinth, vestibular and the cochlear nerve entering into the internal ear. External ear with pinna. Auditory canal, tympanic membrane separating external ear from middle ear. On the midline, another bone called hyoid, which has got body, greater cornua, lesser cornua or lesser horn of hyoid bone, located just above the thyroid cartilage. So vertebral column together with sternum and ribs constituting the skeleton of the trunk. This area is the trunk of the body. And the adult vertebral column contains 26 vertebrae, and it can flex to either directions. Going to enclose some structures like spinal cord, which is present within the vertebral canal of the vertebra, and it also supports the head region and serves as a point of attachment of the ribs and some muscles. Ribs are attached posteriorly to the vertebrae. So let's talk about vertebrae in little detail. So we will see the structure of vertebra in the coming slide. So just before that, between the vertebrae, there is a disc called intervertebral disc, which is having two parts. On the periphery, there is annulus fibrosus, which is a fibrocartilage, and at the center, nucleus pulposus. Vertebra is having normal curves. Generally, there are two types of curves: anterior and posterior, primary curve and secondary curves. Primary curves are the curves which are seen in the thoracic region and the sacral region. Primary curves have a concavity which is placed anteriorly. So the thoracic region and the sacral region, concavity is present anteriorly or concavity is facing anteriorly. These are primary curvatures. Secondary curvatures, as the name suggests, they are developed after the birth. Primary curvatures are present from the birth, or it is present during the embryonic life. Secondary curvatures develops later. Secondary curvatures are seen in the cervical region and in the lumbar region. Secondary curvatures have a convexity anteriorly in the cervical region and the lumbar region. So we have a cervical curvature which is a secondary curvature, thoracic curvature, primary, lumbar, secondary, sacral, primary. So at the time of birth, this is a curvature. This curvature is having a concavity anteriorly placed. Soon the shape of the vertebra changes, vertebral column changes as this. So initially there is a single anterior concave curve, but at the time of 3 to 9 months or third month, child begins to hold the neck. So that creates changes in the cervical vertebra that forms the first secondary curvature, which is cervical curvature, and this is a secondary curvature. Now the second secondary curvature that is developing when the baby starts walking, which is at the time of 1.5 year to 2 years, that develops in this area, lumbar area. So these are the secondary curvatures, cervical and the lumbar curvatures, while the primary curvatures remains. Primary curvatures are here, they remains even in the adult form or in the adult life. They remain in the thoracic region and the sacral region. So as I said before, cervical and the lumbar curvatures are convex anteriorly, and since they develop later in life, we call them as secondary. Whereas thoracic and the sacral curvatures are present from the fetus or from the fetal life. So it is called as primary curves. Let's see structure of vertebra. Vertebra has got two parts, body and vertebral foramen. I'm sorry, vertebral arch or the neural arch, which has some processes. Now the shape of the vertebra in different regions varies from cervical to the coccyx region. But the change in shape is not abrupt. There's a transition, slow transition from each region. So the last cervical vertebrae and the first thoracic vertebrae, they looks almost similar. Similarly, the last thoracic vertebra and the first lumbar vertebra looks almost same. So body and the vertebral arch or the neural arch are two parts of vertebra. Vertebrae are articulating with each other. In between, intervertebral disc is present. The area between the body and the neural arch, there is a foramen, and that is vertebral foramen. Vertebral foramen is occupied by the spinal cord, which is a continuation of the brain below the level of foramen magnum. There are 7 processes for the vertebral arch: a single spinous process, paired transverse process, paired superior articular process, paired inferior articular processes. Body is also called centrum, and it is seen on the anterior aspect. Neural arch extends from the body posteriorly. It has got processes or thick part. This thick part is called pedicle, which is projecting from the body laterally and backwards. Pedicle projects posteriorly and medially as lamina. Laminas meet at the posterior midline, and a process emerging from that point, and that is spinous process. Junction between pedicle and the lamina, there are other processes like transverse process, superior articular process, and inferior articular process. Now the shape of transverse process, size of transverse process, superior articular process, inferior articular process, transverse process varies in different regions of the vertebral column. When we articulate the vertebrae, there are some gaps which can be seen on the sides of the vertebra, and these are called intervertebral foramen, through which the spinal nerve emerges out. This is pedicle, and the pedicle attaches with the body of the vertebra. There are some notch present superiorly and inferiorly. When the vertebrae are articulating with each other, these notches, due to these notches, there are some foramina which are going to develop, and they are intervertebral foramina. So this happens due to the notching of the pedicles. Seven processes already be mentioned. So transverse process, which is extending laterally, spinous process extending posteriorly, and other processes, superior articular process and the inferior articular process. The superior articular process and the inferior articular process, they articulate with the adjacent vertebrae. Superior articular process articulating with inferior articulating process of the vertebra above, whereas inferior articular process articulate with superior articular process of the vertebra which is below. Now the process has a plane surface here, and that is called the articulating processes or articulating facets. I'm sorry. The processes has a flat surface called the articulating surfaces or facet. Let's see the vertebrae of each region. Cervical vertebrae are 7 in number. First cervical vertebra is atlas. Second one is axis. Now, in each region, most of the vertebrae will have similar features. Those vertebrae are called typical vertebrae. They will have a common feature. Whereas some vertebrae in the region will have some peculiar features. Those vertebrae can be called as atypical vertebrae. In the cervical region, atlas, axis, and the seventh cervical vertebrae are atypical cervical vertebrae since they have special features or particular features. So atypical vertebrae can be identified individually, whereas typical cervical vertebrae, which are from 3, 3rd to 6th, they have common features and it is hard to distinguish between these vertebrae. Now, the cervical vertebrae usually has a foramen in the transverse process called as transverse foramina. Now, atlas supports the head and permits S movements. And the joint where this movement takes place is atlando-occipital joint. Occipital bone is a part of skull bone. Superiorly, atlas articulating with occipital bone. That is atlando-occipital joint, which permits S movement. Whereas axis is the second vertebra, which is articulating with the atlas, as seen in this diagram, and forms joints called atlantoaxial joints that forms or that permits no motion, rotatory movements. So the axis and the atlas forms some sets of joints. The median plane, it forms median atlantoaxial joint. Laterally, it forms lateral atlantoaxial joints. Median atlantoaxial joint is a pivot type of joint which permits rotatory movements. Thoracic vertebrae are 12 in number. As we said, in the cervical region, thoracic vertebrae can also be classified as typical and atypical. Typical thoracic vertebrae are from 2nd to 8. The remaining vertebrae here are atypical vertebrae. The peculiarity of thoracic vertebra is that it has costal facets on the body or near to the pedicle, and costal facets articulate with the ribs. Ribs are seen only in the thoracic region, so this is one particular important feature which can be seen in the thoracic vertebra. Thoracic vertebra also allows some movements of the spine. Lumbar vertebrae are 5 in number. These are the largest and strongest vertebrae, thickest vertebrae, and it supports back muscles. It also provides some movements of the spine. Sacrum are sacral vertebrae are 5 in number, but they are fused to form a single bone. And these are the bodies of the sacral vertebrae. They are fusing with each other. Also, the processes are joining with each other. Superior articular process of sacrum will articulate with the inferior articular process of the L5 vertebra. Below sacrum articulate with coccyx vertebrae, which are also joined to form a singular bone. Intervertebral foramen can be seen anteriorly, which are called as anterior sacral foramen. Posteriorly also can be seen, called posterior sacral foramen. Again, it supports vertebral column. Sacrum presents anterior concavity. This is primary curvature. Coccyx is a triangular tail bone, which is a vestigial embryonic tail, and uniting with the sacrum. They are usually 3 to 5, but they fuse to form single structure. Now let's see something regarding the fetal skull. So we saw the adult skull. Now the skeleton of a newly formed embryo has some gaps in between the skull bones, which are later replaced by bones by a process called ossification. Now these gaps which can be seen in between the skull bones are called fontanelles. There are different types of fontanelles. So anterior fontanelle, posterior fontanelle, sphenoid fontanelle, mastoid fontanelle. These fontanelles are named according to the location where it is seen. The function of fontanelle is that it allows the fetal skull to compress as it passes through the birth canal. It allows overriding of one skull bone over the other skull bone so that the total circumference of the skull is reduced. This is particularly important during normal delivery as it has to pass through the vaginal canal, which is comparatively small. The 6 prominent fontanelles here are anterior fontanelle between the angle of the parietal bones and the frontal bone. It's a diamond shaped structure closing at around 18 to 24 months after birth. Anterior fontanelle also has some clinical importance. Anterior fontanelles does not close in case of calcium deficiency even after 2 years of age. And it can be bulged in case of increased intracranial pressure and depressed in case of dehydration. Posterior or occipital fontanelle present between parietal bone, occipital bone. It closes 2 months after the birth. Anterolateral called sphenoid. They are paired and it is seen between frontal, parietal, temporal and the sphenoid bone. Posterolateral, which is called mastoid, since it is related to the mastoid process. And again they are paired, seen between occipital, parietal and the temporal bones. They close at 1 to 2 months after the birth and completely closed by 12 months. Let's see something about the thoracic cage. Thoracic cage is formed anteriorly by the sternum, costal cartilage, laterally by the ribs, 12 pairs of ribs, posteriorly by the 12 thoracic vertebrae. Thoracic cage supports the organs of thoracic region, mainly the lungs and the heart. Thorax is a part of trunk. Shoulder girdle consisting of two bones, posterior view, scapula posteriorly and clavicle anteriorly. Humerus can be seen here articulating with the scapula. So shoulder girdle consists of scapula and the clavicle. Bones of upper limb are humerus is a bone of arm, radius, ulna are bones of forearm. Radius is laterally placed, ulna is medially placed. Bones of the hand from lateral to medial, scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum pisiform. These are the first row, proximal row. Second row starts from trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate. It can be remembered as a mnemonic. She looks too pretty, try to catch her. The carpal bones articulating with the metacarpals. Distally, proximally articulating with the radius. Metacarpals are 5 from lateral to medial. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Phalanges are 14 in number. Thumb has 2 phalanges. The remaining fingers has 3 phalanges on each. Pelvic girdle is formed by the hip bone, sacrum. Hip bone joins with the sacrum, forming sacroiliac joint. Posteriorly, anteriorly, 2 hip bones joins at pubic symphysis. Pubic symphysis is an example of secondary cartilaginous joint. Bones of thigh. Bone of thigh is femur. Knee joint is formed between femur, tibia, patella. Bones of leg are tibia, fibula. This is an anterior view. Bones of foot, superior view, tarsal bones, calcaneus, talus, navicular, medial, intermediate, lateral cuneiforms, and the cuboid. Lateral view, calcaneum, talus, navicular, cuboid, lateral, intermediate, and medial cuneiform bones. Metatarsal bones can be seen numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from medial to lateral. Phalanges for the big toe, there are 2. For other toes, 3 for each toes.